All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodesh. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And Shalom to the Bayath, Shadawadah, the house of David. All right, starting with the 144,000 preaching this truth. All right, throughout the four ends of the world, spreading this gospel. All right. And Shalom to the multitude of believers. All right. So-called Negro, Latino, and Native American are the Israelites, God's chosen people of the Bible. All right. Israel consists of these so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, including the speckled bird who may look like the other nations, but their father's line goes back. All right. This is the brother Karataza of Men of Valor Las Vegas camp coming back with another lesson. Lord willing, it be edifying. All right. And just doing going off of the brothers out on the East Coast. All right. Land backing off of their live lesson when they was going into Wisdom of Solomon, the 18th chapter. It's sparked this lesson, but pretty much just going into how the chariots. Actually, I was outside with the brother. Before he took off, and actually seeing, there was multiple chariots outside. And the Lord showing these signs because more frequently now, because it's about that time for our deliverance. It's getting closer to that time. All right, as it says that the angels encamp it round about. All right, protecting the elect. So pretty much gonna grab a few scriptures and just go into how like the chariots of Israel, so-called UFOs, UAPs, that the world calls them today, they're the vehicles of salvation and destruction. All right. They're going to be, and in times past, it showed you that, the scriptures show you it. Our deliverance out of Egypt. Okay. It's a pillar by day and by night. All right. So, so yeah, we're just gonna get into that. The scriptures that I have pulled up. This is gonna be it's like here 1 second. I believe it's gonna be Isaiah the 45th chapter. Come on, there it is. Isaiah 45:7. This is where I wanted to start out. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I Yahweh do all these things. Okay. And the Lord is a perfect balance. He's the creator of everything, light and dark. All right. Evil and good. All right. Okay. If evil is done in a city, have I not done it? All right. So the Lord brings that judgment first and foremost. Okay. Now, he said, I form the light and create darkness. And in the times of our deliverance out of Egypt, the Lord had a chariot, give light to the Israelites and put the Egyptians in utter darkness. Okay. And we're going to grab that. Okay. This is Exodus. So the Lord was bringing that perfect duality, even in that, but from a heavenly host. Okay. I believe it's going to be Exodus 10. I got precepts lined up, but, I also wanted to just kind of go through the spirit as well. And this is Exodus. It's like he's 13. 13 and yeah, we could just I'm gonna just read 20, 21. And it says, and Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud, and that cloud is a UFO, UAP, the chariot of Israel, a vehicle of our salvation. It says to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire. Okay, to give them light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of by night from the people. Okay, so the chariot was there to give that light. Okay, which who was in that chariot? Who was leading the way in that chariot was Yahweh Shai. Okay. And it, I'm gonna move on to the 14th chapter, Exodus 14, and it says, in here in verse. Let's see. Yeah, I'll read verse 19, and it says, and the Egyptian, verse 19, Exodus 14 and 19, it says, and the angel of the Most High, the angel of power, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. Okay, this is when Pharaoh was getting on the heels. He was chasing down Israel. All right, the Israelites. It says, and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them. And this was the point I wanted to get. And it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these. Who was those? Those were the Israelites. So that no one came not near the other all the night. Okay, so that's how more than likely we were in close proximity, but the Lord made it to where just put that pitch black darkness on the Egyptians. Just like how we in the book of Genesis, how he smote those those sodomites that were trying to get into Lot's house. He smote them with blindness and darkness. They couldn't see right in front of them. All right. So I wonder, when you're reading the scriptures, how close the Egyptians actually were. They could have been, a few hundred feet, but they couldn't do anything about it because they were in that complete darkness. It says back in verse 20, it says, and it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. So they were a chariot length away, maybe a few hundred yards, depending on how big that chariot was. I'm sure the chariot wasn't right up on them. Could have been close though. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that one came not near the other all the night. So they couldn't find us, Now I'm going to go to Wisdom of Solomon, the 18th chapter, and showing the duality with the Most High, that perfect balance. And it's even in one of his, his military arsenal, all right, which the chariots, which is driven by the angels. All right, as it said back in verse 18, an angel of, or verse 19, an angel of God, an angel of power. All right, why is the angel capitalized? Okay, to show that authority. And before I get this, actually, let me grab 18 and I don't want to read too much of it because the brothers just broke this down in the live, beautifully. But Wisdom of Solomon 18 and verse 3, I'll jump down. It says, "Instead whereof thou gavest them a burning pillar of fire, both to be a guide of the unknown journey, and a harmless sun to entertain them honorably, for they were worthy to be deprived of light and imprisoned in darkness, who had kept the sun shut up, by whom the uncorrupt light of law was given unto the world." All right. and that pillar of fire being that chariot. Okay. And going into those plagues that were put upon the Egyptians. What do I want to get? Yeah, so let me read verse 7. And it says, "So of thy people was accepted both of salvation of the righteous and destruction of the enemies." And that's what the chariots were doing. And Sagi, that was the point I wanted to grab. I had the point was that light that was a guide to the Israelites, but that cloud of fire, being the chariots, was a guiding light, of salvation for Israel, for the saints of Israel, for the saints, and the saints are Israelites. All right, and and destruction of the enemies. All right, it says, "For wherewith thou didst punish our adversaries, by the same thou didst glorify us whom thou hast called." Okay, and this world, is going to receive what is described in Zechariah, the 5th chapter, as plagues. All right, what is a precept in the book of 2nd Esdras, and I'll pull that out real quick. 2nd Esdras, I believe it's the 15th chapter, and might be in 16. No, it's gonna be like 15 and 11. And it says, "But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof." Now, this place, America, Babylon the Great, is known in the scriptures as spiritually Sodom and Egypt. All right, that's why I say smite Egypt again as before, referring to this landmass. All right, America. So, those plagues is coming back. All right, where does it describe the plagues of the Lord being chariots? Is in the book of Zechariah, the 5th chapter. All right, and let's go to that real quick. And he says, plagues as before and more, you know, and some. So what was a plague to the Egyptians, all right, is now coming back. All right, there's no new thing under the sun. And what does it say in the book of, is that, I believe that's Jeremiah, be not dismayed as the heathen are dismayed. We actually grab that next. Zechariah 5 and verse in verse 3. It says, then said he, I'm going to just get straight to the point. Then said he unto me, this is the curse. All right. It's like it wasn't a plague, it was a curse. All right. I was getting confused with Zechariah, the 14th chapter, where those plagues were talking about the missiles. Okay. But it says, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. As everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side, according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side, according to it. It says, I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name. And who's doing that? Who's doing that? Esau Edom's doing that. Okay? And it shall remain in the midst of the house, and shall consume it with timber thereof and with stones thereof. All right, and right before that, it described that flying roll. Okay. But this is the curse that goeth forth the whole earth. All right, and the signs are being shown. Okay, but what is a is a strange, all right, or what is a horrific event to them, signifies the deliverance of Israel. Going back to that duality, as we spoke about the duality of the Lord. And actually, let's get a scripture on that in 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 1. It says, moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. And that was talking about the deliverance of the Israelites. Okay, but it was underneath that cloud. Okay, now we know baptism is what? The washing of the word. Now everything that happens with spirit also had a spiritual significance, or a foreshadowing of events. It was a parabolic. There was a similitude with it. Okay, so the we were washed in that it's like I'm getting all up in the camera, but we were washed in that sea. We were baptized in the cloud and in the sea. Why? Because the word was right there. Okay? The word being Yahushua. It says, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Hamashiach, Yahushua. Okay, and that was when Moses, put the staff into the rock, and out came the living waters, right? Which that was spiritual. That was, he's saying here, that was, symbolic of Yahushua. Okay. Yahushua, we read the angel of power was in the cloud. All right. See, everything, and that's the same way Yahushua is coming back. It says, behold, I come quickly. Let's go there real quick. Revelation 1 and 7, behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so, amen. Okay, that's Yahushua coming back with the chariots. What I was thinking of was, behold, I come quickly, let no man take thy crown. All right. But nevertheless, all right, Yahushua is coming back in those vehicles, you know, of strength and in full power and glory. All right, to display and magnify the power of Yahweh. All right, Yahweh is going to send him back in, you know, in perfection with a legion of chariots. Okay. Now, that was pretty much the point. I want to grab Jeremiah. What does it say in the book of Luke? Look up, for your redemption is nigh. But this is going to be Jeremiah 10. And I might have one more after this. 10 and verse 1. Or 10 and 2. It says, thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Part of those signs of heaven, all right, are the chariots of Israel. Okay. What is good for us, which really pertains to the elect, the salvation only is going to be of that small remnant. But what pertains to us, the hopeful elect, okay, isn't necessarily good for the heathen nations. Okay, as we read earlier. This is second Esdras. I'm going to get a quick precept on that, and then let me see. Is it in 2 or 3? The second Esdras 2. And 27, it says, be not weary, for when the day of trouble and heaviness cometh, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but thou shalt be merry and have abundance. All right. It says, the heathen shall envy thee, but they shall be able to do nothing against thee, saith the Lord. My hand shall cover thee, so that thy children shall not see hell. And who's the children? You know, that's who the Lord cares for. That's going to be the elect. They won't see death. All right, they won't see the grave. All right, in that time of trouble, because protection is, you know, ultimately that physical salvation and deliverance is coming from, you know, the chariots of Yahweh Shem Shah, the chariots of Israel. So, Lord willing, this was an edifying lesson. You know, with that, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Till next time, shalom to the elect.